Well, this is the game that finishes the year, but what a game. It's a cracker of one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting season, isn't it? Because I've just said indoors just now to the coaches, 23rd of December, we've got one game left this year. We've only played 6 Premiership games so far. And you kind of stop and think, how much rugby is going to get played next year? 2020 is going to be stacked full of games because we've obviously still got a lot of Premiership rugby to play. And we don't start the season too late next year. There's no World Cup next year. We start pretty much a week or so later. And you think, there's going to be some rugby played next year. But as you say, this is a fantastic game to finish this season. Probably the one, if our supporters could pick a game to have over the Christmas period, they'd probably pick Saracens here. It's fortunate that's how it's dropped. It's fortunate for us it's dropped when we're going okay and at the right end of the table, and looking on pretty good form and managed to get a few guys a little bit of rest. So we've got to go into it the only way we can, absolutely flat out, all guns blazing, and looking to get something out of the game.
You come into it on the back of a huge result at Leicester at the weekend. You talked about the fight. The boys wanted to stay in that fight, and they showed that, didn't they?
That's right, and I think it shows a lot of really good qualities.
You can't coach that, can you?
No, but you can kind of, I think, as a club, you encourage it right from the bottom to the top. That you encourage that belief in each other and that desire to fight for each other. And you kind of try and help give them a way to foster that, and they showed that in abundance at the weekend. You got to give great credit to players who stepped in, because some of those guys, they've stepped into positions where guys have been playing well, probably the back of their minds almost knowing someone's having a break and that they might have to come in and maybe drop out again, and they came in and fought to absolute standstill to a man. You look at how few starts Elvis Tyone's had. Look at the game he had. We went out there and chucked everything to that game for us. Same with Kev this season. Went out there, threw everything into that game for us. You've got to give those guys huge credit for that. Ollie Devoto back from injury, threw everything into the game. You've got to give these guys great credit, because that's ultimately what allowed us to make those changes and still come away with the win. It took a little time for us to settle, but once we settled, we look very good.
You're at contrasting ends of the table, but both of you are form sides, yourselves and Sarries, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, pretty much so. I mean, what was Saracens? I think Saracens will they be top? I don't know. They'll be in and around there without the points deduction. So, and everyone knows they've got a very talented side, very talented squad, and they're tough to beat. They've got probably different motivation right here and now than they've had in other years. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for us.
A lot has been said in the build-up to it, but at the end of the day, it's a game of rugby, and you've got to go out and do what you do every week now, don't you?
Yeah, but what it is it's just a different challenge. Every game challenges you in different ways. Different competitions challenge you in different ways, and this scenario challenges us in a different way. Saracens come in here. Obviously, they're desperate to collect points for obvious reasons. We've also been pretty straightforward in our thoughts about the salary cap situation. That's not going to be a demotivator for them. I'm aware of that. But also, we've been in a situation where, they've knocked us off in a couple of finals that we would like to put that, and we'd like to put that record straight. So there's lots of motivation for both sides, and it should lead to a fantastic game, especially as the weather looks okay. And it doesn't look like it's going to be too windy, which can sometimes be a bigger factor in a game than the rain. So at this stage, it looks like it could be an absolute cracker.
You made changes at the weekend, but you're talking about the strength of your squad now and how they can cope with coming in and out like they are, some of these players. That must be music to your ears as a coach, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know. Strength's probably part. It is, because obviously the overall it's strength, but I think it's almost a maturity, like an understanding that. Regardless of why you get into why the opportunity comes in to get into the side, why you suddenly have some training time, why you have some game time, that there's a reason you have to do things, and there's a why you do things, and your energy will always be rewarded if you do it in the right way. And I think that's what we see. We've seen an increased group of players who understand what it takes to win those games, because a lot of them have been there now, and they've done it in the past, and they've been through the review process. They've been through the mistakes that you can make, and like I say, we're not making too many of those now. We're getting ourselves well aligned, so they're difficult to beat. And sometimes being difficult to beat first and foremost is the biggest, most important foundation quality you can have, and then your qualities can come through on top. So when your Stuart Hogg's making a break, when your Devo's making a break, when Ian Whitten's making a break, Woody's making a break, those things start to get you really on the front foot, and I think that's what you saw at the weekend.
The only dampener from the weekend was Henry getting injured. What's the latest on him?
He's going to be out for a little while. He picked up ankle injuries to both ankles, actually, hobbled along with one till he picked up the second one. The second one is an injury to the old injury he had. They had plated. We're obviously having it assessed continually, but it's not something where he'll be able to get over it in a week or two. I think it's going to be a bit more significant than that.
And this is the final game of 2019. As coach, how do you reflect on the year as a whole?
Well, another fantastic year. We ended up topping out the Premiership table, didn't we? And playing part in a very, very good final. Came very close to winning it. I thought our players stood up really, really well. I thought our players played an important part in a successful World Cup campaign for England. The club continues to grow, on and off the field. The news of the hotel going to start this year is obviously, well, won't start this year, but we've obviously broken the news at start this year, starting early next year is another step forward for the club. There's plans in place to add to the capacity of the stadium. There's a lot of real positive things going on, and the business side of it's thriving as well, and individual Exeter Chiefs players are thriving. It's been a good year to be part of. And
as you say, 2020 looks to be packed full of big games.
Yeah, there's going to be plenty of rugby played. And so if you've got people who want to come and support Exeter Chiefs, you're going to get to see plenty of opportunity to watch a really good set of guys play plenty of rugby.
Thanks, Rob.